Hi friends, it's Shuba. Welcome back to my channel and another day of Bookmas. We made it to the second to last book reviews of 2024. I know that we still have December, but those reviews will go up in January. Anyway, we're going to talk about the books that I read in the month of December. I read 9 books total, 1 audiobook, 6 physical books, and 2 ebooks. Let's start with the audiobooks and ebooks that I read before we get into these bad boys or girls. While I was in India, I didn't read very much, but I did read 2 books. The first one being The Boyfriend by Freida McFadden. This is one of her newer releases. I gave this book a 3 out of 5. This is about our main character. Her name is Sydney and she lives in New York City. She is in her 20s or 30s and she is tired of the dating game, but she wants to find her perfect boyfriend. She's on these dating apps and she's trying to put herself out there and date around. She ends up meeting some guys that don't work, but then there's this one guy who shows up and she thinks that he is the perfect boyfriend. He is charming, attentive, and everything that she could want and more. However, while she's dating this perfect boyfriend, there are a series of murders where women are dying and the cops can't solve the murder. So now she's really questioning who she is spending her time with and if he truly is perfect. In Freida McFadden fashion, this book is fast-paced, it's easy, and it's just all around a good time. While this isn't my favorite Freida McFadden book, I found this audiobook to be fast-paced and so much fun to listen to, especially while I'm doing nothing sitting on an airplane. The story did develop some fun surprises, and by the end of it, there was this plot twist that I have to say I did not see coming. It was really good and I did enjoy it, and I will still read every single Freida McFadden book that she puts out. The other book that I read while I was in India was Hidden Pictures by rekulak, and this was a Kindle Unlimited book. So if you haven't read it, definitely pick it up if you have Kindle Unlimited, or if you don't have Kindle Unlimited, just pick it up. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars and it was such a good time. This is about our main character. Her name is Mallory. She is just fresh out of rehab and she's trying to get a job. She ends up getting a job as a babysitter for this little boy named Teddy and this really nice family. Teddy is a sweet and imaginative 5-year-old boy and he loves to draw. His pictures are of him and Mallory and Teddy's parents and a lot of nature and just really things that 5-year-olds draw. However, Mallory starts to notice that Teddy is drawing some weird things that are not necessarily something a 5-year-old should draw. His artwork takes a dark turn and Mallory realizes that Teddy is drawing this man dragging this dead body out of the woods. Now, Mallory is trying to figure out if this is all in her head or if these drawings are tied to some supernatural power of an unsolved mystery of some sorts. This book was so good. Everything from the mysterious aspect of it in the pictures that Teddy is drawing. If you read the book, you'll actually notice that you'll be able to see the artwork on the pages, and it makes the story even creepier as you're trying to figure out what Mallory is going to do next. While I was reading the story, I had this empathy for Mallory as she is trying to get back on her feet and just do the right thing. But then as she starts to get these weird feelings of unease, it makes me feel for her even more because she's just normal and people don't think otherwise because she just got out of rehab. rekulak writes really easy to read pages and they're fast paced and very engaging, especially with the photos. And you want to figure out what's happening to Teddy, but also you're rooting for Mallory to just have a good life. And by the end of it, you'll get this plot twist that you wouldn't have seen coming at all. I know I didn't. There's a reason why that this book was selected as favorite horror of 2022, and more people should be reading this book. If you're a fan of horror, I highly recommend. This next book is also on Kindle Unlimited, and I started it while I was in India, but I didn't finish it in India. It took me a few weeks before I finished it because I was not having a good time reading this book. And it's so unfortunate because this is a very popular romantasy out there at the moment, and I am sorry, but I didn't like it at all. It is The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. This is a story about our main character. Her name is Lyra, and she is cursed by Zeus, and growing up, she is a thief for the Order of Thieves. Every 100 years, the gods come together to participate in the Crucible, and within the Crucible, each god or goddess can choose a mortal to fight in the Crucible on their behalf. And within the Crucible, there are a bunch of different trials and tribulations that our contestants, mortals, have to fight and face and win or die. What happens to Lyra in this story is that she gets chosen by Hades to participate on his behalf. This book sounds really interesting, right? You have gods and goddesses. We're learning more about Greek mythology, and then you have these trials that are occurring, and these mortals have to fight for their death and win. And the thing is, if you win, then both the god or goddess and the mortal who won will gain power and a prize. The mortal gets to win a wish of whatever they want, and then the god or goddess gets to be the main ruler of the gods and goddesses. So that sounds really interesting. However, this was 600 pages of just bleh. I'm so sorry, but I did not like it at all. Lyra was not a fun character to read about. I just could not stand her. She was insufferable, and then her relationship with Hades was just really weird too. It wasn't even really romantic, so can you really say that it's a romantasy story? Also, it was way too long. Each trial that we had was just so repetitive, and I felt like I was reading the same page over and over and over again. I think I would feel differently if it was a little bit shorter, but unfortunately, I did not like it at all. And I really wanted to like it. I wanted to finish the story off, so I would hopefully change my mind and want to read the second story. We did end the story in a cliffhanger, and unfortunately, we ended the story with a cliffhanger, so now there's going to be a sequel, and I am just unsure how I feel about it and if I'm going to read it. I don't know. This was very action-packed, but it was too repetitive to the point where I just didn't see the end goal of the story, and maybe I'm just being a Debbie Downer because I didn't like the story, and when I don't like a story, I really don't like a story, and I feel that way about this book. However, a lot of people do enjoy the story, and I think that maybe you should give it a chance if you haven't already, and then let me know what you think, and I would love for you to change my mind. But reading is subjective, and I have my own opinions, and you do too. So this is a story that I frankly could not care for, and I give it about a 2 out of 5. I read all of it. Maybe I wish I didn't. We're going to talk about books that I did really enjoy. The first one being The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. This is the last book of hers that I hadn't read yet. Now I am all caught up and ready for her new book that's coming out in 2025. This is about her main character. Her name is Florence Day, and she is a ghostwriter for a really popular romance author. She, however, doesn't necessarily believe in love right now because she herself is heartbroken. She ends up getting a new editor who happens to be this really tall, brooding male character named Benji, and she has the hots for him, but she is his editor, and he is not letting her get an extension on the next book that she's supposed to be writing. So when they first meet, there's a little bit of tension and butting heads, but that's not the last time they're going to meet. She ends up having to go back to her hometown because her father passes away, and she needs to help her family settle things for his funeral. And one thing about Florence Day is that she can speak to ghosts. She can communicate with them, and the reason why is because she's supposed to help them pass through to the afterlife. When she heads back to her hometown, none other than Benji is a ghost, and now he's following her around. Crazy, right? So this is a story about love, loss, family, grief, and I would even say a second chance, especially when she and Benji have to work together when she comes into town. I think that this is a great story that reminds us that love lasts through life and death. I read the story really slowly and I savored every single page, and I'm so glad that Ashley Poston wrote this story and added a magical realism twist to it. I think she does that really well. After I got back from India and finished The Games Gods Play and read The Dead Romantics, I was in a reading slump of some sorts. I didn't know what I wanted to read. I didn't know what I was in the mood for. And it so happened to be that I received a copy of a book that I was really excited to read. So I decided to pick this up. And kudos to past Shuba for ordering this book a few months ago, because present Shuba at the time was very thankful. And the book is Lost and Lassoed by Lyla Sage. This is the third book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and oh my gosh, everyone should read this book. Well, everyone should read the first and second book before they pick this one up, because it's all an interconnected standalone. This got me out of my reading slump. I love this book so much. I love all of Lyla Sage's books. They're so easy to read. They're fast-paced. The love is there, and it's the perfect romance. Don't be fooled. It looks like cowboy romance, all of these books, this entire series, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's full-on cowboy romance. I think they're sprinkled in bits and pieces of it. I don't want to spoil anything for you, so if you have read this book, please continue. But if you haven't read this book, I would just skip to the next book review, because you really should read the first two books so you can feel the feels for our characters in this story. I'm just saying right here, in this book we follow Augustus and Teddy. Teddy is Emmy's best friend, and Augustus is Teddy's oldest brother. And this is like an unforbidden love / enemies to lovers. Teddy and Augustus despise each other. They cannot stand to be around each other in the same room. Throughout reading the first and second books, they had banter. They just went back and forth. There's no love. It was all just, I would almost say hate. They despise each other. However, in this story, there is a point where they have to work with each other, and that's all I have to say, because it was so emotionally good. I mean, you just yearn for both of them as you're reading this story, and I have such an appreciation for enemies to lovers now, because Lyla Sage did it perfectly. I loved Teddy as a main character because not only is she into fashion, but also she's like the fun, loving best friend of Emmy's. And then Augustus is just the oldest brother who's trying to hold it on to all together, take care of his daughter, and also just be there for his family. And you love that. The flaw that we see with Gus is that he doesn't accept help. But then the flaw that we see with Teddy is that she's just afraid that people are leaving her behind and she doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. When you put both of these people together in a room and tell them to decide that they have to work together for the summer, things are actually really nice. And I loved this story so much. I always thought that the sequel, Swift and Saddle, would have been my favorite out of the series, but I think this was the best yet. And I can't wait to read the fourth book in this series, because I just feel like Lyla Sage keeps making better books, and one is just outreading the other. This was so good. This was better than good. This was great. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it a lot. I have 4 more books that I want to talk about. I'm going to do that very briefly because I did upload a Bookmas holiday vlog where I read these 4 books and give you my in-depth thoughts. We're going to be quick about these though, so you can just go on ahead and watch that video once you're done watching this video. Make the Season Bright by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a queer holiday romance about Charlotte and Brighton, our 2 main characters. They haven't seen each other in 5 years, and now they are stuck under one roof for the holiday season. So this is a second chance romance, forced proximity, one bed trope, and then you also have a little bit of fake dating involved in this story as well. I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I loved our 2 main characters. I thought they had great chemistry. While we were reading the story, we would flash back in time so we can reminisce on their love and then also learn what drove them apart. So I thought that it was a great way for us to yearn for both of them and really understand the full picture as we come back to that second chance romance. It was really, really good. What I didn't like about this story is the miscommunication trope. I think we're all adults. These characters are adults, and we just need to be able to communicate and talk to each other. And then conflict, there's no point of that conflict. I don't know. That's just me. And then also there is a little bit of that third act breakup that I think was unnecessary. When you have something good, why don't you just leave it at that? Overall, it was really good holiday romance. It's cute, it's funny, the characters are relatable, and I highly recommend. I love Ashley Herring Blake's stories. Love You a Latke by Amanda Elliot. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and it was so good. I think everyone should read this Hanukkah romance because there aren't enough Hanukkah romances out there. A lot of the holiday books that we have are about Christmas time, but this is very different. This is about our main character. Her name is Abby, and she lives in a small town in Vermont. She is in charge of setting up this year's Hanukkah festival. However, the problem is she doesn't even know where to begin. So she asks the only other Jewish male in the small town to help her plan this, and he said he'll help her plan the event if she will come home to New York to meet his parents and fake date and pretend that they're together. So we have fake dating in this story. There is a one bed trope. Also, what we have in this story is grumpy sunshine aspect of it. Abby is our grumpy female character, and then Seth is our grumpy male character. And I love Seth. I thought he made this book. I thought that he was the best character in this story. Things I loved about this story, other than just Seth, of course, is that I love the story centered around Hanukkah. I learned so much about this Jewish holiday, and it made me appreciate the story even more because it is not a Christmas story. Things I didn't necessarily love about this story, I know I mentioned this, but Seth was the real MVP. Abby wasn't my favorite. I couldn't really relate to her very much, but I think that we needed an Abby to have a Seth, and I really wish we would have gotten Seth's point of view. We only got Abby's, and I wish we had a male point of view in this book. The last thing I didn't necessarily like about the story is that this whole story is centered around planning a Hanukkah festival. However, the finale, the opening, the day of the festival, it's only in the epilogue, so we only get a few pages of it, and I wish we would have gotten more of the Hanukkah festival than just 2 pages in the epilogue. Other than that, though, I love this book, and I think that everyone should read this and give it a chance. Kiss Me at Christmas by Jenny Bayliss. I actually DNF'd this book, and I am over it. I'm not going to feel bad about it. I read about 50% and then decided to stop reading it because I just wasn't having a good time, especially when I was filming a vlog. This is a story about our main character. Her name is Harriet, and she is a single mother. Every year she celebrates the holidays with her daughter, and she loves Christmas and the holiday time period. However, this year her daughter decides to stay with her foster host family in New York City. So now Harriet is by herself and she is boycotting Christmas. She decides there's no point in putting decorations up, there's no point in celebrating because she's going to be all alone. So she decides to go to a bar and drink her sorrows away, and then she meets this man named James and they have a one-night stand. Harriet is a counselor for a group of students, and they all get caught breaking and entering into a run-down musical theater. The owner of the theater calls the cops, and now Harriet either has to revamp and clean up the musical theater or she's going to get sued. So now she has to work with the kids and then also a lawyer to help get the theater up and running for a very big performance at the end of December. Guess who the lawyer is? It's James. That is the premise of the story. I wanted a cute holiday romance book. What did I get? I got a story that's way too long about renovating a musical theater. I just wanted a cute holiday romance. This cover screams cute holiday romance. I don't necessarily think I got a cute holiday romance. I will say the one thing that I like about this story is that our two main characters, Harriet and James, they're both in their late 30s and they nipped miscommunication in the butt. Bud. Nip it in the bud. Super early on in this story, and I did appreciate that. They talked about their feelings and why they were upset with one another, and they fixed the problems and they decided to take it slow and get to know each other, and I thought that was really sweet in resolving the issue at hand, and more books need to be like that so we can just enjoy the moment. The last book that I read in the holiday vlog and the last book that I read in November is Most Wonderful by Georgia Clark. I love this cover. I think this is super beautiful. This is a story about 3 different siblings who are at a crossroads in their lives, and they basically decide to run away from their problems to their mom in the Catskills so they can all be together and kind of just suffer together. This story reminded me a lot of Blue Sisters and The Family Stone. This is very much a emotional holiday story. I wouldn't say that this is super cutesy and a rom-com. It's more of a holiday romance with substance. Very different from what I had wanted, but I think that the story was created in such a nice way that I really appreciated it. It's because we follow each different sibling and each chapter is about them, but they also intertwine throughout each of their chapters and stories to weave this beautiful family picture by the end of it, and I really liked that a lot. I definitely recommend this to anybody who wants a queer, holiday, cozy, emotional romance to read. I am really glad that I picked this up and I really liked it. I don't think I gave it a rating yet. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't my favorite in this vlog, but it also wasn't my least favorite in the holiday vlog that I did. I just wanted more cutesy and this was more substance, but it was still really good and I recommend. Those are the 9 books that I read in the month of November. Let me know in the comments below if you've read them yet and if you liked them. I will see you in another Bookmas video in a few days. Bye!